Hey, welcome to the Upland Nation podcast, insider episode. Every other week occurrence here these days, taking a deeper dive into a subject, a story or a person. And this week, just in time for opening day, however you describe it, the ultimate Upland Checklist. Yeah, everything's on it, except the semi-truck you'll probably need to carry it with. But that's the whole point. Something in this list will be of use to you, and slam your forehead with your hand because you forgot it until I reminded you today. Yeah, it should be fun. I'll hopefully enlighten you slightly, and maybe you will end up having to go to Amazon.com or your favorite local retailer or somebody else and get that one last thing. The Upland Nation podcast is made possible by Cable Gang's Stakeout Systems, Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School, Trulock Choke Tubes, Purina Pro Plan Sport Dog Food, Heartland Lodge, Sage and Breaker Gun Care Products, Roughland Dog Kennels, Pointer Shotguns, and High Vis Sights. Well, let's get down to it because we are pretty much down to it, counting the days, if not the hours, to our departure for that big first hunt of the season. Remember that commercial? If you're of a certain age, you do. You don't leave home without it. That was the catchphrase for a credit card brand a while back. Still holds true, but maybe not just for a piece of plastic. Maybe it's true for anything in our bird hunting world as well. Say it with me. Over the years, I have forgotten this and this and this on the way to a bird hunt. You know, you're racing out the door, kiss your wife on the cheek. She says, "You got everything?" And you stop. The dog's laying on the couch, or your shotgun is still in the closet. Whatever it is. Over the years, I've forgotten shotguns, sleeping bags, never forgotten the dog. But I know people who have. Are you laughing with me? I'm sorry, but it's so true. I once, on a related subject, I once caught the biggest brown trout of my life on a borrowed fly rod. It was still cool, but it was not the same. So with luck, you've got your pencil and paper, or you know where to go. I'll tell you many times during this podcast at findbirdhuntingspots.com. The entire list is right there. Print it out and leave it in your truck cab. The last thing you see before you turn the key every time you go somewhere. Now, I got to admit, most of this stuff was, just pulled, walking around, opening the boxes, opening the duffels, all of that. But every once in a while, one of you has contributed something very useful to the list. So if you have, thank you very much for making all of our lives just a skosh better. All right, so are you about ready? Yeah, even if you've left your ammo languishing on the porch, or worse yet, the beer is still in the kitchen fridge instead of in the ice chest. Just remember, this list is dedicated to all of you with love from me, because I've been there and I've done that. Now, no, you don't have to get too formal about this, but just remember, NASA doesn't launch a space flight without a checklist, and neither should you. There's an element of confidence involved in knowing you have everything you need to be successful. So get out your wallet, add another duffel bag to the gear pile, and start shopping for a new truck if you need to, because everything on this list might come in handy when the nearest town is 254 miles away, or your dog is bleeding, or, well, it could be worse, but you know what I mean. All right, let's start with the most important member of our team, our dogs. They often get short shrift when it comes to luxuries, but think about how much better he'd perform if he was safe and well nourished, warm and dry, and well rested. So if you need to, of course, start with great dog food, and hopefully you've been feeding it all off season as well. At least a 30% protein and 20% fat content. But in the field, a lot of times, at least we feel, the dog may not need it, but it's important for us to give our dog some energy while we're hunting. And if you're like me, you don't feed at the beginning of a hunting day. So consider bringing a high-fat, low-volume supplement. Yeah, dogs don't get their quick energy from simple carbohydrates like we do. They get it from fat. So I'll bring a little bit of something to help my dog. Some people make it simple. You know, you get a little squeeze bottle or a squeeze tube. You can put some sort of vegetable oil in it. A lot of people like olive oil. I will beat a few egg yolks and put them into that. The country boy in me likes ham fat. You know, you buy a big ham, you got to trim off all that fat. I'll freeze it all, and then I'll take out little Ziploc bagfuls every day in the field. I've never met a dog that won't come full tilt running toward you when you show him what you're going to give him. Just be careful, not too much of any of that stuff, and certainly be mindful of the fact that a dog hunting on a full stomach because he got breakfast that day could very well risk some what some people call bloat or gastric volvulus stomach twist. It also impedes performance in general, you know, because a lot of the functions of a dog's body are now devoted to digesting food instead of fueling the muscles with the right amount of oxygen and blood flow and that sort of thing. So anyway, enough about dog snacks and diet. You want a lot of calories and a little bulk if you're going to bring a little snack along. All right, so there you go. Some of the things that I also bring, and you might as well, even if you haven't before, consider using a tie-out steak just to give your dog a change of scenery and a chance to safely stretch their legs when you're stopping for lunch or even at your final destination. I've got clips at both ends of my tie-out steak cables so that if I need to, I can attach that cable to a dog on one end, obviously, and then maybe a truck bumper or a fence post or even a big tree if you can't drive the stake into the ground. I also carry a 9x12 envelope, which has a whole bunch of lost dog posters in it. You know, I got a picture of Flick. I've got his microchip number. I've also got my cell phone number so that if I do have the need to, you know, start searching, the first thing I'm going to do after I conduct a search is post those everywhere I can. Fence posts, local retailers, you name it, wherever they'll let you. And then bring along the things to stick it to whatever you're going to post it on. Thumbtacks, duct tape, or whatever. I like those artificial or synthetic chamois towel-like things to keep my dog a little drier and a little less muddy. He'll warm up faster at the end of a day. If he's been working in the snow, for example, you can get most of that moisture off him. And then I've always got an extra collar with ID tags just in case. Do you bring a survival kit for yourself? I know we talked about that a few weeks ago. Well, how about for your dog? Different from yours. Some of the things in yours will be helpful for him and vice versa. The veterinary ophthalmologist that I trust the most says don't use a saline solution if you're washing your dog's eyes out. She likes distilled water. So buy yourself a little squirt bottle and put some of that in it. You can swap it out every few days, but distilled water in a squirt bottle does a couple things. You can wash out an eye. You can also clean wounds, and that's, of course, paramount. If you're going to be doing any first aid on an open wound, the first thing you got to do is get all the gunk out of there, especially if you're thinking about trying to staple it closed, to make sure it's really, really clean first. I carry hydrogen peroxide, but not for cleaning wounds. There's some downsides to that. I use it so that if he swallows something I don't like, I can bring it back up. That's a topic for another podcast. But again, at findbirdhuntingspots.com, there's an article on how hydrogen peroxide can be used to help your dog upchuck, the dead rodent or worse. I still carry an antihistamine to reduce tissue swelling in the windpipe, whether it's a snake bite or a bee sting. You want to be careful. If it's got certain artificial sweeteners in it, you don't want it. So check carefully. Make sure the antihistamine is the only ingredient in whatever one you're using. Most notorious in that world are those children's liquids, grape flavor or whatever they call it, grape colored. Be careful about that, and only use an antihistamine that has nothing but antihistamine as its ingredients. Hemostat, way better choice than a multi-tool when you're pulling porcupine quills. It can lock. They're a little bit easier to maneuver. You can use one hand and only one hand, and it's balanced a little bit better. Don't ask how I know that. If you can get a tube of EMT gel, even better for some of those open wounds, or that hemostatic gauze. I got a brand called ABC. I don't know if it's still out there or not, but there's all sorts of gauze versions of that stuff that will stop bleeding, could save your dog's life. Duct tape, bandage, of course. You can twist it into a leash if you're desperate, and also the cheapest dog boot you'll ever find. I've been using duct tape for dog boots for 30 years, and I've never been mad when one falls off. Can you say that about your store-bought dog boots? No. All right, so at its minimum, those are the things I carry. It's lightweight, easy to carry. If it gets too big, you won't put it in your hunting vest, so keep it tight. You'll complement some of the other things that are in your survival kit. And ideally, its purpose is simply to get you safely back to the truck and a bigger first aid kit or a race to the veterinarian. Speaking of which, spend a few minutes and make a list of all the veterinarians in the areas that you're going to hunt. Keep them on your phone. I type them in. I make them contacts. Vet, Burns, Oregon. Vet, Lewistown, Montana. Oh, I just gave away two of my spots. Never mind. You get the idea. Then when you need it, you just go to your phone, you hit contacts, you type in vet, you'll find the one you need. Wouldn't hurt to call them in advance, first off, to get their hours and find out what to do in an emergency after hours. And second off, you're not a complete and total stranger when you show up with a bleeding dog. Now, I've never had to use this on any of my dogs, but I carry a quart of a liquid product called Nature's Miracle. It's a handy, simple skunk odor eliminator. You don't have to mix anything. You don't have to carry a bunch of stuff and then shake it together at the last minute. Just keep it in your truck. Nature's Miracle. You might want to take a favorite chew toy, a retrieving bumper or ball, some poop scooping bags, and my four-footed hunting buddy is ready to go. How about you? Well, if you're camping, however you define that, to me, roughing it is taking my small travel trailer. But however you're doing it, you may as well rough it a little bit more smoothly. There's always room for a folding lawn chair for that campfire, and a little small folding table for your favorite adult beverage. If you're sleeping in a tent, a vapor barrier under your tent floor, that'll keep you a lot warmer. Don't ask how I know. It keeps moisture from seeping up into the tent via your bones. Yeah. You got Ziploc plastic bags for your dog's snacks or clean birds, maybe even organizing choke tubes. Those wild strawberries or raspberries you found, Himalayan blackberries out here. There are a few left during hunting season. If you're still using a white gas lantern, make sure you tape some extra mantles to the bottom of the fuel tank. Bring your pillow from home. It's amazing how much better you'll sleep. And if you hunt from an RV of one sort or another, don't forget spare keys, leveling blocks, wheel chocks, a water hose. Yeah, a food-grade water hose. I seldom travel with much water in the tank of my trailers. I get a little bit better fuel mileage that way, and then I fill it up as I get close to the destination for what it's worth. Well, that's the first half of the condensed version of the Ultimate Upland Checklist. I'm Scott Linden. This is the Upland Nation Podcast Insider episode. I'll have a lot more for you when you're in the field, among other things, your own kit, and some other observations coming up after this word from cablegangs.com. Yeah, I mentioned tie-out stakes earlier, and I'm a big believer, and especially in Cable Gang's version. These guys have thought of everything because they've done everything that pissed you off over the years with your other off-brand tie-out stakes. They use the heaviest, largest, strongest snaps so that your dog can't get away. Both ends of those cables have a solid brass snap, 4 inches in length. The stakes have addressed the biggest pet peeve of mine. You pound on the head of those things over the years, and ultimately it pinches down onto the swivel mechanism, and it doesn't swivel. Their cap weld is stronger than the metal itself, so it won't mushroom near as much, and it will always swivel. You know, they're giving you 10% off on everything except gift cards. Just go to the cablegangs.com website, and at checkout, type in the code CG10. Cable Gangs, CableGangz.com. And hey, I'll be at Heartland Lodge this September if you want to join me there. They've got a fantastic residency program going for me, and a very limited number of guests who we'll all hunt together. And then we'll have some fun in the evenings as well, a little bit of information and a lot of, BS. Learn more at heartlandlodge.com. There's always an early bird special of one sort, and any booking, at my urging now, any booking of any sort will get you a free goodie basket upon arrival and a free Heartland Lodge hat. Learn more, just go to heartlandlodge.com, poke around on the website. You'll see why this is an Orvis-endorsed and Shooting Sportsman-endorsed lodge. It's bucket list worthy. We've been there before for Wing Shooting USA, the TV show, and I'm going back. Can't wait to see you there. Hope you can make it, whether it's while I'm there or some other time. Now back to the second half of the Ultimate Upland Checklist. Yeah, it's always fun to revise, compile, and revisit this. So hope you're learning something. We're on to the hunt. If you've ever been 143 miles from home with a broken firing pin, you know that you might want to pack at least another one of those, or maybe even a spare shotgun. Don't forget your choke tubes and choke tube wrench, just in case the birds are flushing farther or closer. In addition to my hard case, I bring a soft gun case or a gun sock, if nothing else. Maybe I'm riding along with somebody else, or we're in a UTV or something like that. It's a lot handier. If you're not carrying a GPS, or if there's not one on your current collar, have one. Even one of the really inexpensive ones, just in case. I remember reading once, somebody asked, remember the mountain man Jim Bridger from way back? Somebody said, man, you wander around out here all the time. Yeah, I mean, you brought everybody across, you discovered Yellowstone, all these, you ever been lost out here? And he said, no, I've never been lost, but I've been mighty bewildered for a couple, 3 weeks at a time. Well, you don't want to be bewildered, do you? Bring a GPS. We'll talk more about that kind of stuff coming up in just a minute. Many states, of course, require a hunter's education certificate, even for adults. So if you're thinking about going to a state you've never been to before, double check on that well in advance. You might have to go to a field day, if nothing else. But these days you can take the test online in many places. So anyway, just make sure. Stash a spare truck key somewhere on the vehicle. I give one to my hunting partner as well, so when I fall off the cliff, he doesn't have to climb all the way down there to take it off my body. You can score points with landowners, your neighbors at camp, or that helpful biologist you meet in the field. Bring along a few small, non-perishable gifts. I've always got beef jerky, and depending on what else is in the truck, I'll carry other things. A headlamp. It sure beats a handheld flashlight, when you're cooking outdoors or answering nature's call or changing a flat tire. If you don't carry two-way radios in your vest, you might still be looking for your hunting buddy who could be on the next ridge or who knows where. Yeah, where I hunt, cell phone signals are a rare occurrence. The two-way radios help just a little bit. Yeah, they add, 8 or 10 ounces, but so what? It's better than not knowing where your buddy is. Even when you do know, it could be so far away, you're going to have to guide him in with shots from your own shotgun when you're standing at the truck. Happened once on a really bad foggy day in southeast Oregon for us. No, we didn't set out in fog, but it rolled in while Dave was 3 ridges over and had no idea which direction to walk. But we did have a radio, so I told him, listen for the shots, and he did. Lived to tell about it, too. All right, and just for the record, everyone should be carrying their 10 essentials. Again, there's a list of those at findbirdhuntingspots.com. But quickly here, duct tape, paracord, map and compass, waterproof matches, another fire starter, space blanket, aluminum foil, water purification device or tablets, a whistle, and a multi-tool. That'll get you out of most spots most of the time. And in this day and age, how can we live without charging devices for everything? From our electric collars to our cell phones. Don't forget adapters for 12 volt if you're staying in a motel or something. User manuals for the ones you don't use quite as often. And if you're over 40, bring reading glasses so that you can read the dang manual. I also use my glasses when I'm giving my dog a check at the end of the day. It's better than kind of leaning way over and trying to figure out what that is between his toes. You can get a little bit better view. All right, in your own kit, kit in the British sense, the stuff that you pack and bring along, you'll be the envy of bird camp if you break out a boot dryer. Yes, the first time I met Mr. Pete at a SHOT Show, I bowed down and thanked him profusely. There's nothing better than warm and dry boots. And if you use it judiciously, you can share it around. Mr. Pete recommends a maximum of 2 hours on the boot dryer, so everybody gets a roll on it before morning comes. Bring all the stuff that you throw down your gullet before breakfast: vitamins, supplements, pain relievers for that night, some sort of brush chaps handy when you need them. They roll up small anyway. Find a place for them. I am a big believer in, out here in the West, what we call a wild rag, a real bandana. Silk is the best. It's strong, it's warm, and it's big. It'll keep your neck warm, which will keep your body warm. It works as a pot holder, a sling for an injured arm, a bandage, a sweatband, you name it. You'll find a use for it. Make sure it's big. Find it at a Western or a ranch store, somebody like that. Yeah, there are times when you want to get out of your hunting boots and wear something else, whether it's when you're going to town for dinner or just something a little less heavy and more comfortable around camp. Whatever suits you in that regard. I bring moccasins, but I have soles on those that are hefty enough, robust enough that I can walk around on, rough terrain. In the rig, how about this? Spare serpentine belt. Open the hood. You know what I mean, right? Well, if you're stuck in Podunk, West Virginia, with a broken serpentine belt, I doubt they got a parts store, let alone the serpentine belt to go with your rig. So of all the spare parts, that might be the one that's most important. I bring some of that tire sealant gunk in a can. In fact, I always have two. I've never used it in my rig, but I've given away a lot of those cans. And I always have a box of whatever we call them these days. They were called fuses. Maybe they're still called fuses. You know what I mean. Somewhere in there is one that will get you down the road. It may not be exactly the right one, but it probably will help. You got some people call them jump packs. Those rechargeable jump starters, portable ones. Heck, on a gas engine, you can use the little ones that are, small enough to fit in a glove compartment. On a diesel truck, you might need the bigger versions, but poke around, bring one of those. There's always a mistake in the mapping software that your GPS unit is using. I can guarantee you that. I had someone at the agency that makes the maps tell me that they can't possibly stay up to date on that stuff, and because they can't, then they send those maps a year or two later, and sometimes it's just the walk-in areas in a specific state. I had somebody confess once that the last update on one of the states I was going to go to was 2 years old. So pack a paper map, a directory, a hunter's atlas for that year, whatever it is, just in case. We call them jerk straps. Some people call them recovery straps. Take you from zero to hero when someone else is stuck in a ditch. Or if you have one and you're stuck, somebody else might be able to pull you out a little bit more simply. If you don't have a winch, a come along might save your bacon. if you're sliding off that muddy road. I'm not going to use, my credit cards are worn out already. I'm not going to use them to scrape the windshield when it's icy. I bring a real ice scraper and I stow it under the driver's seat so I can always get at it real quickly. And I use the ones with the long collapsible handle. For a truck, you probably need one. All right, that's your rig. This is the Upland Nation Podcast, Insider Edition. We're talking about, well, we're in the tail end here of what else to bring. Well, in fact, let me climb onto my soapbox and suggest that you probably won't need all of that stuff. A lot of it you might need. Some of it somebody else might need. And some of it I hope you never have to use. But I've learned the hard way in some of the most remote parts of the West. And so if I can fit it in, I'm going to bring it along just in case. You know, we've all got our own version of an unforgiving landscape where everything scratches, bites, or stings you. And, you know, a false step might result in a twisted, torn, or broken limb. Some of the places I go are farther from a hospital than anywhere in the lower 48, so I've got to be self-sufficient. You have the same thing, whether it's deep in the woods or off in the desert. I'd rather bring it and not use it than limp or shiver or bleed while I wished I had brought it. You drive hundreds of grueling miles to hunt. Maybe you turn around halfway back and pick up your wallet and drive them twice. Sometimes you can buy replacements on the way, probably not where you're ending up. So just remember, it's better to give some precautions than to receive the consequences of not being ahead of the curve. Download the list, customize it to meet your needs, and the next time we meet, we'll both be headed toward a birdie covert instead of home again to pick up those dang tent poles. The Upland Nation podcast is brought to you by Heartland Lodge. Learn more at heartlandlodge.com. Maybe I'll see you there during my residency. And also Cable Gangs, Stakeout Systems, Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School, Through-Lock Choke Tubes, Purina Pro Plan Sport Dog Food, Sage and Breaker Gun Care Products, Roughland Kennels, Pointer Shotguns, and High Vis Sights. Hope I do see you out there very soon. I'm Scott Linden. Thanks for listening to the Upland Nation Podcast.